Hey, Sports Choir here with Georgia State men's soccer head coach Brett Surrency. How has the preseason or the fall practices been going for the team so far as you prepare for the season opener?
Yeah, no, it's been going well. Different, but it's been going well. We've obviously had some adjustments in terms of our season, just from a start date and then scheduling as well too. So that's thrown some things off. At this point, we would traditionally, including preseason games, have probably 5, 6 games under our belt, and we don't even play for the first time until next week. So it's given us a little bit more length in what an actual preseason would be. And then with just some different protocols in house. We split the squad to start in pods, so that was a little bit different. So just some different things, but I think overall it's going well. I think the guys have enjoyed being back and having I'll be a little bit different, when you're playing a sense of normality. But I think we're anxious to play. We're accustomed to having 2, usually 3 preseason or exhibition games, and now we'll be jumping straight into it. So that will be a little bit different as well too.
Were you able to get, how did this impact your summer? Actually, let's go back to the spring. Were you able to get any spring practices in or any spring contests? And did you get any summer activities in as well? How was that affected by the pandemic?
Yeah, so we were pretty unique in the sense that we got all but 2 weeks of our spring season in. We did miss a couple games, so we were only able to play 2 of our 5 games. But we did get the majority of our spring practices in, which was great. For us, we don't have summer access to the athletes. They can do stuff with strength and conditioning coaches, but in terms of us coaches, we're not able to train them anyways. So what that usually looks like is the players playing in summer leagues, typically around the country. But those were all canceled. So the preparation for them in the summer was a lot different. And then obviously with everything happening in the world, there were some lockdowns, and depending on where our guys were in the world, had very limited access at times, even outside. So that part was certainly a little bit different, building back up into preseason. And we kept that in mind as we went, with our preseason practices. We started much slower, in terms of the physical exertion that we typically would. And we knew we had more time until we would play our first game. So all of that factored into, kind of what I said on the front end of just being a little bit different, in how we traditionally go about things in the preseason.
And then what about the recruiting aspect of it? Did that have impacted it any way as far as your spring and summer activities?
In terms of physically going out to recruit, it did. We were pretty much done with our recruiting class, sort of as everything was kind of going south, if you will. So it didn't really affect us too much with this current class. The NCAA has put a dead period. I think it started in March or April, and it just continues to get extended. So as of now, it's through this month. So we haven't been able to go out and recruit. But things have obviously changed as well with the recruiting process, because now they've given the extra year and the extension, of the clock of the student athletes as well too. So that will, change some things for the immediate future too. So so it didn't affect too much for this year's team really, but certainly has moving forward.
And what about the procedures that take place as far as how you handle the student athletes as far as their classes? Because I think it's pretty much all online for the majority of your athletes. How does that change just from your fall period of balancing that with the training and everything along those lines?
Yeah, you're right. The majority of our guys have online classes. There's a few that are in person. There's a few that are blended. Our guys actually miss the in-person learning, for a variety of reasons. I think there's a social element that comes with being on campus, and it's a little bit different in terms of breaking up their day. We've been very, I think, poignant in our message to them, in the sense that, look, it's really important for us to avoid bigger groups, and right now being at your apartment is probably the best place to be, and because our guys want to play and we want to play, and with all the rules associated with athletes that test positive, and contact tracing that the NCAA has put into place, there's you want to try to minimize those risks as best you can. So yeah, we actually had that conversation with a couple guys today, is that it's different for them. I think the idea of they come, we train in the mornings. So they come, they train in the mornings, and then, it's back to their apartment or dorm, and, there's lunch in there somewhere, and then, kind of trying to carve out that time for their studies. But I think they have to be much more. Time management is always a big thing for, I think, for college athletes and college students in general. But now even more so, because you don't have that, hey, you're going to psychology, when it was a Friday at 1:00. Now it's, the majority of our guys don't have set lectures via online. So they're having to really be diligent about setting time aside for them to study. Otherwise, I think you can get into a good bit of procrastination. But overall, I do think they miss the in-person element to it, because that's part of really the whole process of what they're accustomed to.
Yeah, and then we'll go to the actual schedule. Well, this ties into the schedule. It looks relatively normal, all things considered. I think you have a good amount of matches. You're playing at Mercer to open up. What about the schedule breakdown? Because a lot of conferences have not been able to get they have been unable to get non-conference contests. Looks like you have a decent amount of them on your schedule, relatively speaking.
Yeah, we were fortunate. So there's only actually two conferences that are continuing to sponsor championships this fall. It's the Sun Belt, and then the ACC. There's a couple schools that individually are playing. A lot of them happen to be in the South. Mercer being one, UAB being one, South Carolina being one. So we were really fortunate in that respect. I think the difference is in our schedule, we're playing a double round robin in the league to try and get more games, whereas traditionally we only play teams once. And then you can see where we play UAB twice, we play Mercer twice. That's pretty atypical as well. The amount of games for what ultimately the length of the season will be, starting on September 18th, is probably in line with where we would usually be. We typically can play up to 20 games. But, again, given the actual time frame that we will be competing is pretty similar. But, yeah, I mean, hopefully so. We've had an interesting time scheduling, just because there's been a lot of changes with different conferences and leagues. And I think we've gone through, countless versions of what the schedule looks like. The actual schedule is probably done at the turn of the year, and it's now it's gone through a lot of changes. But we're excited to hopefully get back onto the field soon, next Friday, and see what we got. We like our team this year, so it'll be fun to, put them up against somebody else.
Yeah, speaking of the team, I made it to the conference finals last year. Just what's the overall, before we go into some individual, just overall assessment of the team and how you guys are looking in anticipation of the 2020 campaign?
Yeah, I think we like our team. We've got, a good group of returners coming back. They had a good year last year, so I think that's important. Another year under their belt, so to speak, and have a way of how we want to go about doing things. And I think we're fortunate that it's a good group of guys, and they're good mentors to the players that have come in. We like our kids that have come in, the new players. We think some will contribute straight away, and they've come in and done really well. It'll be an interesting year, just because you'll have a lot of programs where maybe not everybody has come back, or you don't know how things will look from week to week. So it will be an interesting year, I think, in a lot of respects. But as far as what our team is, I think we're happy with where we are, right now, and teams on our schedule are good. So, I think we'll have some good tests to truly see where we're at. And we think the league's going to be very competitive this year.
You return your leading scorer, Aris Briggs, who a really strong campaign, preseason player of the year in the conference. How beneficial is that to have a senior as your leading goal scorer, to at least have your forward position taken care of?
Yeah, Aris had a great year last year. He scored a ton of goals, and the game's a lot easier when you're scoring goals. There's no doubt about that. So, no, I think that's huge, and he's got some good support around him as well too, that is also returning. So I think there's a familiarity there. Hopefully we can continue his hot streak from last year. And when he's on, he's on. He's physically very imposing, and he's a tough player to contain, and fortunately he plays for us.
And yeah, you also have a good amount of midfielders, upperclassmen, Matthew Fearnley and Ross Finnie, who are also named all conference. What about those guys in your midfield as far as having some veterans in that part of the field?
Yeah, for sure. I think Matt and Aris will maybe take some pressure off of each other because Matt can score goals as well too. We expect him to continue improving at that rate like he did last year. Ross is more of a provider, so he's probably the guy that is the pass before the assist that helps those guys out. So yeah, no, I think we've got a really talented group. It'll just be our task to try and put it all together and make sure the pieces all work and see if we can turn that talent into some wins.
You also return a upperclassman goalkeeper in Paul Tyson. How beneficial will he be to lead your defensive unit?
Yeah, no, I think experience is always key in those defensive areas, whether that's as the back line or with the keeper position. So we think we've got some strong goalkeepers in addition to Tice as well too, and he's been a good mentor for those guys. But yeah, I think the stability of this will be his third year with us in terms of playing, and yeah, that helps. We've also got George Proctor who's playing in that back line, and just some older, more experienced guys because they will have some younger guys around them. I think is huge, and have a voice that's been there and has a good level of experience. I think goes a long way.
You're entering, I think, is your ninth or 10th year technically with the program that you're entering?
I think it's my 11th year as the head
11th. Okay, 11th year. I was
think
trying to figure out when you get hired and everything like that.
I think it's my 15th or 16th year over. Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, but you have a long tenure. But as far as the head coaching spot, and the team's made the consecutive runs to the conference championships, what's been the key to that consistency of putting yourself in position to compete in the regular season and earn a spot in the NCAA tournament?
I think we've had some good players. Coaching's a lot easier when you have good players. I think we've got to the point where the guys take a lot of pride in what they do, and you're seeing that this year too. As you see the players go through a certain set of standards and they hold each other accountable. And so I think when you get to a position where the players are kind of running the day to day with respect to culture and standards that they want to see, then it becomes a lot easier job from a coaching perspective. So you've got a good group of guys that come in, new players that have, the mindset of they want to fit into the group in terms of the way they go about things. I think that becomes a lot easier for buy-in, and it certainly helps when there's a level of success that comes with it. But I do think we've got good kids and good players, and their mentalities are right both on and off the field. And anytime you bring someone new into the program and they're able to see that, from